Ferrari SF26 secrets amid Paddock power struggles.
Bahrain. Week 2 of preseason testing. No points, no spectators, no broadcast cameras tracking every sector. And still, what unfolded in that desert heat sent quiet tremors through every data room on the Formula One grid. The SF26 wasn't the car setting the timing screens on fire. It wasn't dominating simulated qualifying runs. But the moment the long fuel runs began, rival engineers started exchanging glances across the pit lane. Something felt off. Or perhaps more accurately, something felt impossibly controlled. Because in Formula One, when a car behaves with that level of precision, somebody always starts digging. And this time, the team doing the digging wasn't a rival constructor. It was the FIA. So what exactly triggered the concern? Not a controversial aerodynamic component. Not a radical floor concept visible to any sharp-eyed camera operator. This was subtler, more buried. The kind of thing you only uncover when you stack sector-by-sector telemetry across 30-plus laps of high fuel running. Ferrari's rear tire was finding its thermal operating window with almost surgical accuracy. And the more alarming detail? It was holding that window. Consistently. Across lap after lap. No violent temperature spikes. No cliff-edge performance drop. Just smooth, predictable, eerily stable rear degradation. On a circuit like Bahrain, notorious for destroying rear rubber through abrasion, aggressive traction zones, and sustained lateral forces, that kind of behavior simply doesn't appear by chance. Rival engineers started their own analysis. Sector breakdowns, load transfer comparisons, phase-by-phase cross-referencing. And that's when the first genuine alarm sounded. The SF26 edge wasn't coming purely from corner exit. It was emerging from the moment before exit. That razor-thin window where the car settles its platform before the throttle is even touched, where everything either harmonizes or unravels entirely. That conclusion pointed straight toward one specific area: rear suspension geometry, dynamic rear ride height behavior. But the story didn't stop there. Teams studying the car's movement noticed something additional. The SF26 moved differently from its rivals. Liberated on the straight, but under heavy braking, it compressed with a fluidity that produced almost no rebound. No oscillation. No instability breaking the car's rhythm. That transition, too smooth, too repeatable, raised the second flag. And the third came when the FIA connected the pattern. Extreme platform stability. Controlled thermal behavior. Linear degradation across extended stints. The response was immediate. Data requests went out. Ride height maps. Internal rear tire temperature logs. Aerodynamic behavior data across different loading phases. Suspension kinematics through transfer. No formal accusation, but an unmistakable magnifying glass, positioned directly over Maranello before a single championship lap had been completed. In Formula One, when the governing body requests that level of specific data before race one, the message is clear. Something attracted attention too significant to overlook. Now moved the scene entirely. Same week. A completely different room. Post-Bahrain testing press conference. 3 drivers seated. 1 subject on the table, completely unrelated to Ferrari on the surface, and yet quietly revealing everything about the atmosphere inside that paddock. The topic? The newly introduced longer hold drift procedure ahead of race starts. Bottas spoke first. Measured and straightforward. I don't think it's more dangerous than before. My only concern is for drivers starting at the back. Once your hold drift begins, the lights could already be counting, and you won't have enough time to get the turbos spinning before they go out. A genuine concern. A real procedural problem. The kind of granular detail only drivers physically inside these machines would identify. Hamilton followed. Composed and precise. It's definitely not dangerous. It's simply a longer procedure than what we've had previously. You can still pull away. You'll likely anti-stall a couple of times. But dangerous? No. Thorough. Professional. The measured response of someone who had clearly thought it through beforehand. Then Verstappen. Not a beat of hesitation. You could always start from the pit lane if you feel unsafe. The room laughed. But beneath that laughter sat something with a sharper edge. A quiet reminder of the dynamic that permanently defines this paddock. Max Verstappen doesn't deal in diplomacy. He operates through dominance. Even when the cameras are rolling in a press room. 3 drivers. 3 answers. 3 personalities completely exposed within 60 seconds. But the real narrative wasn't being written in that conference room. It was forming back inside the garage. Back with Hamilton. Back with the quiet reconstruction happening inside the man now wearing Ferrari red. To really grasp what Hamilton said when testing concluded, you must first understand how heavy the season before had become. His debut year at Ferrari produced a result that still reads as statistically surreal. A complete 24-race season. Lewis Hamilton. Not a single podium. Not a rough patch. Not a streak of misfortune. 0 podiums across an entire calendar. The paddock watched closely. Former champions began voicing public doubts. Media voices drafted his retirement narrative before he had. And inside Ferrari, a team where history and expectation arrived together every single morning, the weight was suffocating. Yet here is what the noise outside consistently missed. Hamilton didn't fracture under that pressure. He disappeared into the work instead. No public excuses. No deflection toward the car or team. Just focused, unrelenting engagement. Extended debriefs. Simulation hours. Granular feedback sessions with his engineering group. Not chasing media cycles. Chasing comprehension. Then came the moment that quietly changed everything. The 2026 regulations arrived as a complete clean sheet. And for the first time since crossing the garage door at Maranello, Hamilton wasn't learning to adapt to a machine already shaped by others. He was part of building something entirely from scratch. And the SF26, regardless of whatever the FIA investigation ultimately determines, gave him something his first Ferrari season completely denied him. Something he could actually feel and trust beneath him. When the final testing day closed, Hamilton published a message. Understated in tone, calm in delivery, but the words carried undeniable weight. I'm reset and renewed. I'm not going anywhere. That was not a motivational statement for supporters. That was a boundary being drawn publicly, aimed not at the fans who never abandoned him, but directly at every voice that had grown comfortable constructing his ending. 3 separate storylines. One shared paddock, and every thread pulling toward the same unavoidable collision point. If the FIA completes its data review and finds the SF26 fully compliant, the implications for the rest of the grid are severe. It would confirm that Ferrari identified a superior interpretation of the regulations in the most consequential area of a contemporary racing car, rear platform stability, and its cascading effect on tire thermal behavior. That concept cannot be replicated inside a fortnight. Rebuilding suspension philosophy requires entire development cycles. And if that advantage survives scrutiny intact, Ferrari stops reacting to race strategy. Ferrari starts dictating it. Extended stints. Undercut coverage with confidence. Rivals pressured into early stops. That isn't raw pace. That is control of a race. However, if the FIA issues a technical directive, even one stopping well short of declaring anything illegal, Ferrari's rear thermal balance shifts immediately. The strategic freedom disappears. They rejoin the same performance window as the field. Meanwhile, Hamilton, psychologically rebuilt, belief genuinely recovered, either becomes the defining force of Ferrari's new regulation era, or confronts the brutal possibility that the machinery still cannot match the renewed intensity he's bringing to it. And through all of it, Verstappen observes, as he consistently does, quietly, without urgency, understanding that dynasties never collapse from external pressure alone. They collapse the moment they begin believing they've already won. Scenario 1 the FIA concludes its review and clears Ferrari without condition. The SF26 concept stands fully validated. Hamilton's psychological reset proves genuine and lasting. And for the first time in recent memory, Maranello doesn't merely compete for race victories. It competes for everything that matters. Scenario 2 a technical directive forces Ferrari to reconfigure its rear suspension concept. The thermal advantage dissolves. Hamilton's rebuilt belief crashes directly into a car that can no longer deliver what Bahrain's long runs appeared to promise. And quietly, steadily, the doubts find their way back in. Scenario 3 the investigation extends deep into the competitive season. Ferrari carries every race under intensified regulatory scrutiny. Every development update examined. Every suspension adjustment questioned. And inside that relentless pressure environment, we finally discover exactly who Lewis Hamilton has become. Has Ferrari genuinely engineered the most intelligent rear platform concept seen in contemporary Formula One? Or has a regulatory magnifying glass simply exposed the one thing Maranello absolutely cannot afford to surrender, the advantage of being underestimated? And Hamilton, reset, renewed, and publicly refusing to disappear. Is this truly the opening of his real Ferrari chapter? Or the final movement of the greatest career this sport has ever witnessed? The answers will not emerge from press briefings. They will not arrive through data requests or regulatory correspondence. They will come on track. Lap 1, Race 1. And that is precisely where this story becomes impossible to look away from. If you stayed until this moment, you already understand that this season was never purely about outright speed. It's about who endures the politics long enough to survive. So tell me, is Ferrari holding the most brilliantly legal advantage in modern Formula One history? Or is the FIA preparing to rewrite the entire competitive picture